7 Days to Die is a rather deep and complex game, and it can be a bit overwhelming to learn all of the ins and outs, especially for brand new players. So today I'm going to show you a beginner's guide to Day 1 survival. I will demonstrate exactly what you need to do to survive Day 1 and set yourself up for a very successful playthrough of 7 Days to Die. When you first spawn into a brand new game of 7 Days to Die, you will see this little pop-up right here. It says Started Basics of Survival. This is your starter quests. You want to try to get these starter quests done as soon as you can. There are 8 quests in the beginning quest section. Now, while you're trying to complete these quests, it is best not to stray too far from your initial spawn point. That is because zombies will not spawn near your initial spawn point. You will be relatively safe. You can complete those quests without having to deal with the zombies. But before we get started on those quests, let's take a look at the basic controls in 7 Days to Die. I'm gonna start off with the mouse and keyboard controls. In order to move your character, you're going to use the W, A, S, and D keys. W moves you forward, S moves you back, A moves you left, and D moves you right. The left click on your mouse will perform a primary action with whatever you have equipped on your tool belt. If you have nothing equipped on your tool belt, you will actually just throw a punch. So left click does a standard punch, and right click does a power swing. The space bar is how you jump, and if you hit the control button, you will go into sneak mode. If you hold the shift key while pressing W, you will actually sprint, and you can hit tab to access your crafting menu. Once in your crafting menu, you have a whole bunch of tabs up here that give you access to other menus. This one right here will access your character. This icon here will access your map. This icon will access your skills. The exclamation point will access your quests, and this icon here is the players tab, which gives you basic information on all of the players in your world. And the last icon we want to look at is the journal tab. This will give you a whole bunch of useful information. I would recommend, if you are brand new, take some time, go through and read each of these items. They give you some very, very useful tips and tricks. Now, 7 Days to Die is also playable with a controller. So for all my controller players out there, let me go through the controls on the controller. I am going to be explaining how to use a PS4 controller, so if you're using an Xbox controller, you will have to look up the corresponding buttons. Now, in order to move your character, you're going to use the left joystick. That will move your character around. The right joystick will move the camera angle. The right trigger performs a primary action with whatever you have selected in your tool belt. The left trigger will perform the power attack or the power action or the secondary action. The R1 button will switch between items on your tool belt. R2 will switch in the opposite way. So R1 moves the items to the right, R2 moves the items to the left. The X button is how you jump, and if you click the right joystick, you will go into sneak mode. And the square button will open up your crafting menu. So now that we've discussed the basic controls, it is time to get started on those beginner quests. If you look in the top right corner of the screen, you will see it says craft a bedroll. Gather plant fibers 0 out of 10. That is telling you that you need 10 plant fibers in order to craft a bedroll. So let's get started in collecting those plant fibers. In order to find plant fibers, all you have to do is find some grass, like this little guy right here. Give it a punch. There you go, and you've collected 2 plant fibers. So all you have to do is punch a little bit more grass, and you will have enough plant fiber to craft your bedroll. Now you'll notice in the top right corner of the screen, our quest has changed. Now we have enough plant fibers, we can actually craft the bedroll. So we're gonna open up our crafting menu, and you'll notice right here on top, you see bedroll, and it has a yellow exclamation point right next to it. That is telling you that this is the item you have to craft in order to complete your quest. So select that item, click on craft, and wait for the item to finish crafting. Now you'll notice in the top right corner of the screen, our craft a bedroll has been switched to 1 out of 1. That means we have completed that portion of the beginner quest. Next, it's asking us to place the bedroll. So what we're gonna do is we are going to add the bedroll to our tool belt. We're gonna exit out of our crafting menu, and we're just gonna toss the bedroll down on the ground. And you'll notice in the top right corner of the screen, our active quest has changed. We are now on craft a stone axe. We already have the plant fibers we need, but we also need wood and small stones. One of the easiest ways to gather wood is by punching this little woody bush right here. You will receive anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of wood just by punching that little bush. And here's another one, give it a smack. There we go, now we have enough wood to craft a stone axe. Alternatively, you could go ahead and punch a tree. It takes a long time to get wood by punching it, but if you can't find any other sources, you can always punch a tree just to get what you need. We also need to gather 2 small stones. These can be found dotted about on the ground all over the place. You just got to do some looking, find a small stone lying on the ground, and pick that bad boy up. Now, as you can see, our active quest has changed to craft stone axe. So again, we will open up our crafting menu, and you see the stone axe right here on top with the exclamation point. Select that, hit craft, and wait for that bad boy to craft. Next up, we need to craft plant fiber clothing. So once again, we need to gather some plant fiber. Once you've collected enough plant fiber, go ahead and open up your crafting menu once again, and we're going to craft ourselves a pair of plant fiber pants and a plant fiber shirt. And once again, our active quest has changed. Next, we have to put on our clothes. So we will select the item and we will click wear. Next up, we need to craft a wooden club. However, we are all out of wood, but luckily we have our stone axe, so wood will be relatively easy to come by. All you'll want to do is come up to this tree that we were looking at earlier and start hacking at it with your stone axe. Once you've gathered enough wood, open up your crafting menu and craft your wooden club. Next up, we need to craft a bow and arrows. Now, we've already got enough wood and plant fibers. However, we need to gather a small stone and a feather. I've already demonstrated how to find small stones, but I have not shown you where to get feathers. You can find feathers in birds' nests, so go ahead and search that bad boy up, and there we go, we have feathers. Now we can go ahead and craft up our primitive bow and craft up an arrow. Next up is the start a base quest. First thing it wants us to do is craft a wood frame block. So we are going to go ahead and select that, click craft, and place this wood frame into our tool belt. We're going to navigate over to our wood frame on our tool belt and use the secondary action in order to set down the wood frame. Just like that. Next, it wants us to upgrade the wood frame. So we're going to navigate over to our stone axe, and we are going to again use the secondary action to upgrade our frame. There we go, quest completed. And the last quest in the basics of survival is to build a campfire. So again, we need to gather some small stones. Once you have enough stone, go ahead and open up your crafting menu, select the campfire, and get that bad boy crafting. Then we're gonna move the campfire down to our tool belt and place that campfire on top of our wood frame. Boom, we are done with the beginner quests. Completing the basics of survival does a couple of things. First, you'll notice our active quest is Journey to Settlement. This provides you the location of your first trader, which is 582 meters to the south. You'll notice on my compass at the top of the screen, there is a yellow exclamation point. That is pointing you to your first trader. Now, before you head off to the trader, there are a couple of things that you want to do. First, you want to spend your first 4 skill points because completing the basics of survival will open up your first 4 skill points. Now, for brand new players, I would highly recommend going into the Fortitude attribute. You definitely want to take Rule 1 Cardio, Healing Factor, and Pain Tolerance. Since you are brand new to the game, you are probably not very familiar with the zombie movements. As such, you have a higher tendency of getting hit. So by going into Fortitude, we make it so we can actually take those hits. And the last point, I'm actually going to save until we get to the trader. And I'll explain that here in just a little bit. Now, once you have spent your points, there is one more thing that we need to do before we head to the trader. We need to craft up a couple more items and get our tool belt in order. First, we're going to craft a couple of stone spears. And we're also going to craft a stone shovel. Now, we're going to go ahead and get our tool belt in order. This note from the Duke of Navezgane you really don't need. Go ahead and toss that bad boy. Get it out of your inventory. It is just taking up space. The rest of this stuff you can probably put away as well, but we will leave our stone axe on our tool belt. Now we can go ahead and move the rest of the items down that we're going to be needing. So as you see, I've kind of grouped my tools together and I've grouped my weapons together. And then on the end here, I put my first aid bandage just in case we need to heal. The rest of this stuff you can keep in your backpack. Now, before we start the journey to the trader, let me go over why we've crafted a stone shovel and these spears. The stone shovel was crafted because we are going to need it once we reach the trader. And I'll get into that a little bit later down the road, but the spears are extremely important. Stone spears early game are probably the best weapon to use. On day one, your goal is not to confront and try to kill the zombies. Your goal is to try to evade and stay away from the zombies. However, if you do come across a zombie that you cannot avoid, it is still best to keep the zombie at a distance. The stone spear does exactly that. It allows you to hit the zombies while still keeping your distance. The standard thrust attack can reach a lot farther than, say, the wooden club, and the power attack allows you to throw the spear at the zombie. Now, the reason we crafted 2 stone spears is so we have one to throw and then switch to the other one and stab. Again, you should not engage the zombies unless you absolutely have to on day one. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you have to fight the zombies, it is best to do so at a distance. So craft yourself up a couple of stone spears before you head to the trader. Now, once you've completed all of these steps, it is time to make a beeline straight for the trader. Do not waste time. Head there as quickly as possible. Now, while I would recommend trying to get to the trader as soon as you possibly can, it is okay to make some pit stops along the way. And one thing you want to be on the lookout for is this little guy right here. This is a tree stump. These little guys are definitely worth stopping for because not only can you get wood by chopping these bad boys down, you also have a chance to get honey. So as you're making your way to the trader and you see a tree stump, stop and break this bad boy down and see if you get some honey. Honey is extremely important early game because it is one of the only ways that you can cure infections. You do not want to mess around with infections. Cure those bad boys as soon as you can. So while you're making your way to the trader, if you see any tree stumps on the way, stop and break them down in order to stockpile honey. And we finally made it to the trader. Once you get here, again, you do not want to waste any time. First thing you want to do, head inside and loot the entire compound. Every single lootable container should be looted. And don't worry too much if you get over encumbered. What do I mean by that? Well, if we take a look at our inventory here, you'll notice that we have 27 boxes or 27 spaces here that are regular. And then we have 18 more down here that have the little guy icon holding something on his back. If we fill up every single one of these boxes and then start to fill up these boxes down here, we get what is called over encumbered. That makes you move a lot slower, and running just drains your stamina if you are over encumbered. Generally speaking, early game, it is not a good idea to get over encumbered. However, if you're inside the trader compound, you do not have to worry. And that is because trader compounds are 100% protected. You cannot damage them. Zombies cannot damage them. So once you're inside, you are 100% safe. So being over encumbered is no biggie. Plus, we're just gonna turn around and sell most of this stuff right back to the trader. So go through the compound and loot everything that you can. You especially want to be on the lookout for the crafting stations. Every trader compound will have all 4 crafting stations somewhere in the compound. Most of the time they will be destroyed, but that's okay because destroyed crafting stations have the ability to give you some pretty decent loot, and they also have the chance to give you the schematic for that crafting station. So search those up. Now this time we didn't luck out, we didn't get the schematic, but that's okay because we got some wood and we got some lead that we can sell right back to the trader. Now real quick, remember that point that we saved from the very beginning? The reason I was saving that point was just in case we did loot the schematic for the forge off of the forge in the trader compound. But since we didn't, we'll go ahead and spend our last point opening up Advanced Engineering level 1. That will give us the ability to craft the forge. Having a forge on day 1 will give us a huge head start. So we will go ahead and spend our last point on blacksmith. Now let's finish up looting this trader compound. One area you definitely want to loot is the kitchen area of your trader compound, and that is because you can find a cooking pot. Having a cooking pot on day 1 is huge, so do not skip the kitchen section of the trader compound. In fact, do not skip anything in the trader compound. Loot everything that you possibly can. That even includes the cash register inside the trader area. It is perfectly okay to loot this cash register. The trader doesn't mind one bit. Plus, you can get a lot of really good stuff. Some dukes and some old cash that we can turn around and sell right back to the trader. So let me show you what all we found when I looted this compound. We've got ourselves a level 2 stone axe, so we can go ahead and scrap our old stone axe and bring down the quality 2. And we found a bunch of other stuff that we can sell. We found our cooking pot, which is awesome, but we found some very good sellable items as well. I also found a first aid bandage schematic. Now this is a judgment call. You can either sell this or you can read it. First aid bandages would be an awesome thing to know how to craft, but if you need the money, it is okay to sell it because chances are you're going to find another one down the road. Now it is time to introduce ourselves to the trader. So we will interact with Trader Bob here and say hello. The first thing you want to do is click on May I See Your Inventory. That will bring up a list of all of the items he has for sale, and it also gives us the ability to sell items to him. So go ahead and sell all of the items in your inventory that you do not need. And honestly, in the beginning, you do not need much. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. After selling all the stuff I do not need, we ended up with 461 Duke's Casino tokens. Now your target is 400, and there is a specific reason for that I'm going to show you here in just a second. That means I did not have to sell my first aid bandage schematic, so we can go ahead and use that, and now we know how to craft first aid bandages. The next thing you want to do is get rid of any excess crap that he will not buy and you do not need. So these 2 gunpowder, toss them out of your inventory, you do not need them. The lead, toss it out of the inventory, you do not need it. The nails, I would go ahead and scrap those down for the iron because you will need iron down the road. The paper, get rid of, you do not need paper. And the 5 brass you do not need, go ahead and throw those out as well. Now we do have a brown dye here that we can go ahead and add to, let's see, we'll modify our axe here and toss that on our axe. Boom, there we go, just to free up the inventory space. And we also did find a treasure chest, so we will go ahead and read that, accept that. That way it is out of our inventory as well. There we go. So we have a lot more inventory space to work with, and we have our 400 Duke's Casino tokens. Now the reason I recommend getting at least 400 Dukes if you can is simple. Next thing we want to do is talk to the trader once again and take a look at what he has to sell. Specifically, we are looking for a starter firearm. If we can find a firearm early game, that will set us up tremendously. And as luck would have it, he has a quality 1 pistol for 400 Dukes. It is very common for traders to have quality 1 firearms for sale on day 1. Now it's not always a pistol, sometimes it's an AK-47 or a hunting rifle, but generally speaking, they will have at least 1 quality 1 firearm for sale in their inventory. And every quality 1 firearm can be purchased for 400 Duke's Casino tokens. Once again, having a firearm on day 1 is a huge benefit that will set you up for the first few weeks of the game. So we are going to go ahead and purchase this pistol. There we go, level 1 pistol, ready to roll. Does 32 damage with a magazine size of 15. Now this weapon is going to be for emergencies only, but it is extremely important to have a firearm or to get a firearm as soon as you can. There are going to be moments in this game where you are going to need the firepower. Now we can throw our brand new firearm right down here on our tool belt, and we will resituate everything there, move everything down a spot. Now we have our weapon ready to roll. Now if by chance you sold all of the stuff that you do not need and you still have not received enough Duke's Casino tokens to purchase that firearm, never fear, because the next thing you want to do is check and see if he has any jobs available. So we're going to click on do you have any jobs jobs, and that will bring up whatever quests he has close by. Now, generally speaking, on day one, I like to stick to the buried supply quests. They're usually quick and easy, plus they will give you food and drink, which you will definitely need on day one. But he has several quests that are very, very close, including a fetch quest, which is right next door. Now, this fetch quest right here will actually make things a little bit easier. We're actually going to accept this fetch quest because it is going to lead directly into what we want to do next. So let's go ahead and accept that quest. And you will see in the top right corner, our active quest is retrieve the supplies, activate the rally point 66.9 meters away. Now, before you leave the trader compound, there is one more little trick that you can do. You can actually pick the gun safe behind the trader counter. So while you were looting, if you were lucky enough to find some lockpicks, you can actually use these to break into this safe. So let's go ahead and give it a try. All you're going to do is hold down the interact button. That'll bring up this little radio menu here, and you select pick lock. Now let's see if we are lucky enough to break into this. We have 7 lockpicks at our disposal, and there's a good chance a few of them will break, but if we can get into this gun safe, we will actually get a lot of really good loot that we can turn around and sell right back to the trader. And there we go. We lucked out and we were able to break into the safe. And we still have 3 lockpicks left. Not bad. So we can go ahead and search up this safe and grab some goodies. All right, nothing too spectacular, but we do have a bone knife, which is excellent. We can use that to harvest up animals. And we have ourselves a level 2 stone spear, which means we can get rid of one of our level 1s. Now, once your business has concluded with the trader, the next thing you want to do is find a place to call home. Now, I would normally recommend doing this before you do your first quest. However, since our fetch quest, our tier 1 fetch quest, is only 50 meters away, we're actually going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So let's head to the site of our first fetch quest, which is this little blue house right here. Now, when I said we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, what I mean is we're going to find a place that we can call home and complete our quest at the same time. One of the most difficult things for brand new players to decipher is just how difficult a POI is to clear. However, if you clear a POI from a tier 1 quest given to you by the trader, you know that that POI is going to be relatively easy. That is a great way for new players to learn the POIs in 7 Days to Die. You can accept a tier 1 quest and know that it's going to be a tier 1 POI. That way, when you go inside, you do not get in over your head. Now, this POI is not going to be our permanent home, but it will make a great place to hunker down for the night. So let's go ahead and get this quest started. First thing I want to do is we're going to repair our tier 2 stone spear. That way it is fully functional when we head inside. And we are going to go ahead and start this quest. Now, if you have time, you can double loot a POI, meaning you can go through, clear out all the zombies, and loot up all of the lootable containers inside, then come back outside and start the quest. That will reset the POI. However, if it's getting later on in the day, you may not have time for that and you may just want to start the quest. That's what we are going to do right now. So let's go ahead and activate the tier 1 fetch. Boom. Now we are ready to roll. Now this is a fetch quest, so technically we do not have to kill all of the zombies inside. However, since we're making this our POI for the night, you will want to clear this bad boy out of any of the zombies that may be inside. That way you will not get bothered during the overnight. So let's head inside and let's get started. Once you enter the POI, you definitely want to go into sneak mode. Oh, we've got spotted. Okay, we've got our first zombie jerk nurse. Hit her with the spear and club her to death. Bam! There she goes. Down she goes. First zombie kill under our belts. And she was even nice enough to drop us some loot. And all you'll want to do, folks, is just follow the path of the POI. Make sure and grab your supplies and clear out all of the zombies. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and I will be back in just 1 second. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, our courier satchel that has our supplies. So we'll go ahead and loot that. This POI took me about an hour to clear. It was nothing. There were like 5 zombies total that I had to kill in the entire POI. I did not go through and loot all of the loot. I just wanted to clear it out as quickly as possible. We can actually worry about looting and getting all the good stuff overnight. That's a great way to spend the night cycle. So now that a quest is done, we are going to head back to the trader and turn this bad boy in. So here we are back at the trader. Let's go ahead and talk to him and accept our reward. So we have a choice of weighted head mod or lucky loot looter, pick whichever one you want and go from there. We also got 330 Duke's Casino tokens and 2,500 experience. Not too bad. And while we're here, we might as well grab another quest. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this buried supply quest, and now we are about ready to head back home. But before we head home, we want to hit up his vending machine. Every trader has a working vending machine, and these little bad boys are awesome. Early game, food and water can be an issue. However, if you are close by to your trader, you will not have to worry about that. Vending machines restock every single day, so they are a constant source of food and water. So we'll go ahead and buy up a little bit of this food. So now we have enough food and water to last us at least the first night. And what's great is this vending machine will restock and we will have access to even more food tomorrow. So now we are ready to head back home. So here we are back at our POI for the night, and we want to get this bad boy secured for the overnight. We have a few hours before the day actually ends. So what we want to do is go through and secure all the entrances and make sure that the zombies cannot get to us. From the outside, this place looks pretty secure. So we are actually going to head back on inside. Now what we want to do is pick a place to call home, or pick a place that we're going to actually hunker down. I would recommend being either on the second floor of the POI, or if the POI has a basement, hunker down in the basement. Either one of those will work. But what we're going to do is grab our bedroll, toss our bedroll down. That will protect the POI, keep zombies from respawning. Although we're only going to be here for a day, so we don't have to worry about the zombies respawning. They will not respawn overnight. And now we want to go through and secure our compound. First thing you want to do is knock out all of the noise makers. That way, if you're moving around at night, you don't have to worry about accidentally stepping on one of these bad boys, making a lot of noise so that the zombie jerks outside hear you and start coming after you. So take these out as much as you can. And there we go, folks. I've got all of the noise makers taken out. So now you can go about securing the rest of the house. Now you don't have to do too much. Any open spaces, you want to make sure and block those off. But generally speaking, overnight, your goal is to be quiet. You do not want to make a lot of noise. Next, what we want to do is create ourselves a campfire. And you probably also want to create a storage chest. So we're going to pick a place to put our campfire. We'll throw that right there. We'll access our campfire and we will put in our cooking pot. Now we will toss down a storage chest. We'll just toss that right there, and we can store all of the stuff that we do not need on us right now. Now for the overnight, what I would recommend is you do want to be quiet. However, because we got rid of the noisemakers, you should be able to move around in the POI and not have to worry about attracting any zombies outside. I would not go crazy. I would not go overboard, but if you have some time left over, go through and start clearing out the house. Start looting up what you can loot up. Start at the top and work your way down. Or if you're going to be hunkering down on the top floor, start at the bottom and work your way up, and just go through and loot all of the items that you can. Try to get as much looted before the nighttime happens, but once the night bell hits, it will be okay to move around in the POI as long as you remain crouched and you don't make too much noise. I wouldn't recommend breaking down items overnight, but you can go through and loot whatever items are lootable. And that's how you want to spend the rest of your night. And depending on which POI you picked, you can place your torch on the wall to give you a little bit of extra light, because it does get dark once that sun goes down. And there is the night sound. Night is upon us. The zombies have just gotten a lot faster and a lot more dangerous. So once again, on the overnight, I would spend it looting up what you have not looted yet in your POI. Just be careful, don't be too noisy, but it is a good way to spend the night cycle. Clean up your area, loot up what you can loot. Other than that, just hunker down and wait for the morning bell. And just like that, we have survived day one. Now, if you're a brand new player to 7 Days to Die and you're looking for some information to help you get started in this game, I've created a very special playlist of beginner's guide tutorials that you can access by clicking the box in the top right corner of the screen. But for now, this is Saven saying thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in Saven's World. And remember, the average gamer is always king of the hill on the bell curve.